Hello and welcome to another Daily Muppet. Today's video we're going to talk about the Mason Mount story in a bit more detail. Obviously that's all really blown up in the last 24 hours since some stories have come out in the last video we had discussing him. Talk about Declan Rice as there's a little bit today, and I just want to cover that as well. Talk about Kane and Ramos, Jan Sommer, and then I just want to talk in general about, and this is where I'm going to start, whether the Shackles feel kind of off on the transfer side of things. For some time, United have been stuck a little bit. We know that targets, and this is relevant obviously to Mount. I've been talking about Alexis McAllister, how United really wanted him. They couldn't move quick enough. Liverpool pretty much jumped ahead. They've got most of the terms agreed. They're progressing well in the talks. They think they're going to get him, and but now you have these stories, and not just that. From what I've been hearing behind the scenes related to Mount, related to other things, there's been a flurry, and I do mean a flurry of activity in the last week or so with people, specifically John Murtaugh and Eric Ten Hag, being very involved in transfer discussions. And there's a couple of things that could be. Obviously, we could speculate. There's some talk that there may be, that tomorrow might be the day for things to finally come out and have some solidity to who the bidder will be, who wins the Manchester United race to buy United, all of that, etc. I think that, as I've said before, a preferred bidder announcement is essentially as good as a bid accepted announcement in this case, maybe even the same. And obviously, right now, it still could be anyone. There's a lot of people taking a lot of guesses at the moment that do not know. And there are a lot of people taking a lot of guesses, and I know for a fact that they're guessing because we have our ways of, in our community, of messing with people. And I know for a fact that some of the accounts out there are, in fact, being purposely fed false information, and they just run ahead and start putting it out like it's something that they knew, which is very funny, but I won't go into it further because it is amusing, and I'd rather have them worry about it. But nobody knows exactly yet who is going to win for sure. Nobody knows for certain. There's little bits and pieces of evidence in different ways, but it is impossible as of yet to tie it all together. I can't tie it all together. I can't say. I gave the latest update on that on Monday. That was the last I'd heard from the Ineos side, their perspective, their viewpoint, their calmness on the situation. But as I've said, it's one side. I imagine both sides maybe feel pretty confident until the final decision is given. And I think if it were known, let me put it this way. If it were known, I think it'd already be out there. It would already be out there. It would already be coming from one party or the other if they were not in the race. And that was my point, is the minute it is actually known by the parties involved, it's going to be out there in a flash, instantly. And they would also have a duty to inform the shareholders very quickly. So, and they don't want to mess that up because those are serious, serious things. But there's that. That's a possibility that it is tomorrow, that we are going to find that out, that the decision is being made. There's some potential that the Glazers are in England to finalize this again now, but I cannot say for sure. But there is some potential that they have arrived in the last 24 hours. There's talk from someone about them being at the game on Sunday. And so there's potential that they're there through the weekend and after to wrap up this process. That is possibly something that is happening. The other thing is just top four. With the results at the weekend, obviously winning the game for United, but also Liverpool drawing, and unfortunately not losing, which would have secured it entirely, but drawing. It moved top four to a near certainty. 1 point needed from the last two games, put United very close. And, well, that might be a major factor as well in the flurry of activity in being able to move forward. One of the things that I've said for some time when I broke down FFP a few months ago is that United could spend more than is being said. They could put more out there. The budget is not as limited as they're making it out to be. Champions League is also set to increase the payouts to many clubs by as much as £40 million in the next season because of new things on the deals and how it's going to work. There was something from the Times about that, but it's going to be an increased dollar amount paid out for clubs in the Champions League moving forward. So there's a lot that could happen here, and United's budget is better than it's being made out to be, but it's fine. I understand why they don't want to just blare out there about having tons of money, but you're seeing some of the hints of that now. So let's get right into it on Mason Mount. I linked yesterday a video from all the way back March 22nd when I'd heard from one of my regular sources that he was pushing potentially to get to Manchester United. That's where he wanted to go. This is a long time in the making. My concern was we were stuck and couldn't move forward. And, it's taken some time to figure this out, but you can see that there's definitely been a shift to targeting these kind of attacking eights positionally. Now, the Rice rumor may change that a little bit. We'll talk about that in a second. United want him. Ten Hag wants him. Ten Hag really wants him. And the other day, I hadn't been talking about Mount that much. And the other day, someone I speak to who also watches the videos, said, hey, you should talk maybe a bit more about Mount because it's a lot more realistic than you think. And he was telling me some more details and such. And that's why I mentioned him in the last video and a bit more. And because I was told essentially, hey, there's a bit more to this. I had not been talking about him much simply because of the nervousness of Liverpool. And I told him that too, this person I speak with, that my concern was Liverpool, that I'd heard they'd already been in touch, that Klopp had already spoken to him, that knew what he wanted in wages and all that, and that Liverpool would snap him up quickly, much like McAllister. But it does come down to the fact that it seems like he prefers United, and that's what David Ornstein said. And he's spoken with Klopp, he's spoken with Arteta and Arsenal, he's spoken with Erik ten Hag. Apparently, Chelsea aren't super keen on him going across to another London club, so that helps too. But the simplicity of it is it's going to likely push his way towards United, and this has all the makings of a deal. There's set to be more talks between the clubs very shortly, and then hopefully we'll get some updates and feedback on that. But interestingly, in terms of the fee, I don't know exactly. I imagine because there's a lot of interest, from the Chelsea side, they're not going to say, oh yeah, he's 50 million and you've got Liverpool, Arsenal, and United chasing. They want to try to pump that fee up. So, I don't think it's going to be 80 in the end. I think you'll end up from someone else I spoke with, one of my long-term contacts was saying there'd likely be more in the range of, 50, 55 maybe with some of those clauses and add-ons and something like that. But really good signing, actually, in my opinion. I think that Mount fits the profile of a better Fred type of idea. He is one of the best pressers and defensive midfielders. When I say defensive midfielders, I mean in the defensive work midfielders in the league. Very good, very creative, good on corners. Had 3 assists off corners in one season for Chelsea, which is more than we've had in 3 years total. Good player, makes those runs in those combinations, and that's something I think our wingers need. Is a midfielder who's going to make more of those. I like it. I like the signing. It's one of those signings where you think, At first, you're like, I don't know. I don't know about Mason Mount. My first reaction about the rumor way back in March was like, no, I don't want Mason Mount. Doesn't do it for me. But with the shift in how we've played, the more I see it, the more I think about it, it's like this might actually be one of those smart signings. That's not like the name everybody's hoping for, but actually works really well in the end and actually ends up being the right thing. So I have a lot of hope for it because I feel like those are the signings we haven't been making for years and years at Manchester United. We've been making the ones where it's like the big name, the excitement, all of that. It doesn't work out. Where you see City often making signings, they're like, that was smart. That was smart. Arsenal made a lot of those signings before this season. Those smart signings where you think, who thought Zinchenko, would be this good? Odegaard, he had been really highly rated and then not so much, but you see them. They're smart signings. And I think Mason Mount could really fall in that category. So I think this one has a really high chance of happening. Budget-wise, I think you could afford him on top of the striker without sales. I think sales will definitely be necessary moving things forward. But if you could bring in someone like Rabiot on a free plus Mount plus a striker, you really change the profile of the whole team. And then the sales can help you, settle things down and get more elsewhere. On Declan Rice, it was reported obviously again by Sammy Mockbell that United are interested in joining the race. There's been some rumors for a while, right, about United potentially trying to rival Arsenal or get in there. My thing on it is, as far as I've heard, he was not someone that they spoke with recently when Mount is a much more active case, an active topic. The interest has been there in Rice for years and years. I would love him. I've said so many times I would love to get Declan Rice in. It feels like we're just too far behind Arsenal on this, and it feels like at his price, which could drag and could be 100 plus million, he's not in the final year of his contract. It feels a lot tougher, and there's a lot less detail in the reports. It wasn't like Mount's, hey, 55 million, talks already occurring, wants United, etc. I know less about this topic, Declan Rice. I have less information, but it feels that we're too far behind Arsenal. Not that the interest isn't there, but I would wait for some reports that more change the needle, because us being interested doesn't really move the needle for me. It doesn't move it. It doesn't change my perspective on where this is going, which is that we're not going to get him unless there's more details about actual talks, ability to make offers, etc. But again, it's interesting, these reports coming out, Mount, Rice, Kane, etc., big money. People may think I'm going to read into this and say, oh, it's English, that means it's Ineos. No, I don't think that. I don't read into things like that. That's not my bias. I think that whoever comes in, well, I think it's more likely what's being said, if it is related to the takeover, is move ahead with your current plans this summer, and then, we'll continue overhauling things for the next one. If that's an indication of who the owner is, maybe it is. But that's all. That's what I think is more likely, kind of what would be going on, rather than anything specific saying, oh, we like English players, or we like this, or something like that. So just don't read into those kinds of things, because those kinds of things are silly. I'm not downplaying anything. I'm just saying those kinds of ways of tying it together to me are silly. And then at striker, you still have obviously the big thing about making the big offer for Harry Kane. There's been a lot more talk of Holland. It wasn't really the subject of the article, but Laurie Whitwell once again talking about Gonzalo Ramos in this article about who gets the next number 7. They're still interested in him. They're still looking at him. This remains the same as ever, but I don't think that it's going to hold us back from being able to make a move for someone like Mason Mount now, with the securing of top 4 and the reality of where United's finances are. They're going to have a good season. So I think, again, this one will be a topic as soon as the season ends and the takeover is done. Big money offer for Harry Kane, and then hopefully move on quickly. Like, we want this accepted, or we're moving on quickly. Final thing is, there's a story about, obviously David De Gea, that his new contract has been basically agreed, but it is up still to United and Ten Hag to give the final approval, which apparently has not happened yet. There's some talk about from Germany today about Jan Sommer, United still being interested, could be brought in as a number 1. I'm still hoping that potentially it holds off until the takeover is completed, and perhaps the money is there to go and get a big new goalkeeper like Diogo Costa. That's my hope. But the selling of Dean Henderson, who seems very likely, McTominay potentially, these things are obviously also contributing to the help of spending elsewhere. And I do wonder, you bring in someone like Jan Sommer, who could be the number 1, who's a definite upgrade, who Ten Hag likes, not as expensive, then the FFP and transfer space from those sales like Dean Henderson can all go into the midfield, where maybe you can spend the money on like Mount and Rice and Kane and Sommer. I mean, imagine that as a summer. A striker, be it Osimhen, Mount, Rice, and then, someone like Sommer in there. So that's what I've got. Thank you for watching today's video. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, turn notifications on, and I will see you in the next one.